Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are going to move to where you will be not visible as soon as I can find the share screen uh, place. There we go. These are my technical skills, folks, as I just admitted to being not very skilled. We are now seeing my full screen. Yes? Yay, congratulate me. All right. Now, official welcome to this presentation, The Message of Anger. Use its power for healing, clarity, and purpose. I am so pleased that you were able to look at this title and decide that it's something that was worth attending to learn what it is that I'm sharing with you. Here are some workshop reminders. We are going to have you muted for the most part, unless there's an interchange where I'd love to hear from you if you have something to share. Another reminder, we expect, but I will say this, courtesy and respect on all of us for everyone. And the co-host, in detecting some disrespectful chatter in the chat box, will use that as a cue that you are not abiding by our values and will show you the door out without your even knowing it. But if you're booted out, you'll know that you violated courtesy and respect. Finally, questions are welcome at any time. Put them in the chat, and at an appropriate time, the co-host will let me know about these questions, and then they'll be asked. This is the structure of this webinar masterclass. We'll have one section, the discomfort and need to dismiss anger. The second section will be the turnaround, seeing anger as a message. In the first section, I want you to be able to see what your discomfort is and why you might have felt a need to disregard anger or even unconsciously bury and suppress them. In the third section, which is a huge section at the end, we will talk about anger as key to your power, healing, clarity, and purpose. With all of that, power, healing, clarity, and purpose, it's a huge section equal to the first two. I have never presented the material in this way, and I will tell you the first thing. I have given up perfectionism, which is one of the patterns I will describe, so that I take on being perfectly imperfect, which means I make mistakes. I make mistakes in the presentation of slides. I make mistakes in wording, and you're getting confused, and you'll hear my story about that. So bring your compassion and compassion and forgiveness to this masterclass leader who is a human, a work in progress. And that is a journey that I will invite you to join me. Being a work in progress to find your power, join in healing so that you have clarity and purpose. And for me, it's all about connection to your heart. Okay, Some of you saw me on screen. The official bio is that I have more than 40 years of experience, beginning in 1981 when I earned my PhD in clinical psychology, and after that worked with clients for all that time. So I have a lot of experience in therapy, in coaching, and in healing. And that's the official. And now I'm going to begin my story. This is the unofficial story. When I look back, I can see that my story began with a deep sense of being lost and confused. You see, when I was born, my mother wasn't emotionally available because her heart had already been broken and hidden away, shaped by her own pain, her introversion, and a life that taught her to be stoic and silent. As you can see from my picture, I'm Japanese American, and I grew up in a home in Hawaii that was very Japanese. My parents really lived in the old Japanese way, and the Japanese way is to be a stoic and to be silent for the most part. And I absorbed all of that. Now, in my history, 2 years later, my twin sisters were born. So imagine for 2 years, I had a sister 9 years older than me, 7 years older than me. And so for a while, I had center stage as much as I could have center stage with two very introverted parents. But it all changed when they were born. And that is when I can say my lost and confused period began. I learned that love was scarce. So I decided, without words, I got this impression that how I was going to negotiate life was I would earn love by being good. Good daughter, good student, good professional. I did what so many of you might have done. I followed the path of achievement, degrees, success, get into some well-recognized track where at the end of it, you would be guaranteed a position of respect. And that's what I did. And I did it well on the outside. I looked fine. But on the inside, I felt alone. I didn't understand my feelings. My heart was broken, but it was hidden from me, hidden from everyone else and hidden from me. So, like most of us, we carry old wounds, and guess what? We keep recreating them. Did you notice that? My, my marriages, relations were all marked by betrayal and heartbreak, reflecting my unhealed places back to me again and again. 10 years ago, intuition broke through my intellect with a simple, clear message. Listen to the cries of your heart. I could see myself on the sofa with a pen, writing a chapter in a book. And the phrase just came to me. This is a very unusual experience for me. I was so entranced that I obeyed and I began to write what that meant to me. And it became a chapter in the book, and it became a book. Listen to the cries of your heart, which was about my personal journey. You see, up to then, with all the psychology I'd been through, all the training. I never looked to see how all of that applied to me. It was the skill set I learned as a psychologist and therapist, which I used with others, but not for me. But this phrase took me on my own personal journey to heal my heart. And the book birthed an inner child healing method. And previous to that, I didn't even know anything about inner child methods, although I had read John Bradshaw's book. You see, it's amazing how much you can acquire intellectually that didn't impact me. And maybe it's your story as well. So that was my turning point. And having heard intuition, I heard it again 5 years later. It guided me to study MAP, Make Anything Possible. There, I learned how to use the subconscious mind to heal the deep wounds of childhood quickly, gently, and profoundly. So now I work with the wisdom of intuition, the superconscious, which is what we call the subconscious that we train. And I work with what I found, my original essence, which I carry, which each of us carry, that is unbroken, connected to spirit and love. And that's the journey that I will describe for you. That's why I'm here. I'm here to show you that anger is one of the cries of your heart. It's nothing to fear. It's something to listen to. So my intention is to provide you keys that I use for my own journey looking back to find your true selves. I don't want you to spend decades, as I did, lost and confused. I want you to hear what keys make sense to you so you have your clarity, your purpose, your power, and your peace. I tell you a secret. Your heart already knows the way. But how connected are you to a heart that shows you the way? And that's what I am going to be doing in the next for the rest of the time we're together. All right, so that's my story. So this is the spirit of what we're doing here. They'll be teaching that I will do, where my primary purpose is to make you aware, first, of how you handle anger, how you came to handle anger the way you do, and then the second segment on looking at anger as carrying the message. And finally, the third section is to get to that undefended heart where you can find your original essence, find yourself as spirit, find out who you truly are. So the second is the teaching will continue to talk about your history that informs your reactions and your emotional. I will describe an emotional reset that you can participate. And finally, to talk to all the ways that you can empower. And finally, there'll be self-reflective pieces so that you can involve yourself in the material that I present without involving yourself with the self-reflective pieces. This is all about feeding your brain. And as you can tell, I have a bias against that. I spent too long, most of my life, listening to my thinking brain and it didn't get me anywhere. It just fed the brain, but didn't provide guidance, which only my heart could provide. And I'd like to encourage you to do the self-reflective pieces so you get involved and get experiences, because experiences enhances what you took into your brain and makes it more real. I want to pause right now and ask you, if you haven't already, because I didn't ask you, jot in the chat um, where you're from in the world so that we get an indication of that. Um, and I welcome you. And Doug, maybe you can tell me what places are coming up. Everyone find the chat and say where you're from. We welcome you.
We have someone from New York that's based in California now, somebody from Sydney, London, Southeast, New Jersey, Houston, Florida, New York, London, Ontario, Canada, Virginia, but listening in California.
Awesome. Thank you for so
And we are
participating.
both from California.
Thank you. Um, I'm glad I did this part because I am so grateful for technology as much as some part of me doesn't always use it well. I'm grateful that we can gather at this time from all over the world. And one thing that you can learn is that gratitude is big for me. And if I don't say it once, oh, I'll say it at the end of this presentation. I love to be inspired by wisdom teacher, and Rumi is the one that talks about gratitude. He says that if you wrapped yourself in gratitude, every corner of your being would be fed. Isn't that beautiful? And he also said that in gratitude, you will find your beloved. So part of what I do, I borrow on spiritual practices. And by explaining this about gratitude, I am taking that wisdom to inform what we're going to be doing next to prepare for our the next section. That is getting ahead of me. I would like you to join me in this very short exercise where you close your eyes and you breathe and watching your breath, becoming aware of your breath, the movement in your body that is your breath. Because when you focus in this way, your breath becomes deeper. So you can bring relaxation into the body, softening the muscles and any accompanying tension because you're concentrating. Also, bring that relaxation into your thinking mind so that you can open the doors to your intuition, your imagination, and sources of inspiration. So as you continue to watch your breath, you've expanded who you are just by watching your breath and following my instructions. Finally, I want you to imagine locating yourself in your brain that is hearing these words, and move down to your heart and find the sacred place in your heart. Where is it? Some part of you knows, and just land there. And in the sacred place in your heart, there is a light. And if you don't feel it, see it, imagine it, just pretend. Pretend that you have a light, a small light, that you're going to expand to fill your heart, then to fill your body, and to fill the area around you. This is the sacred place, a place of light that I hope we can all create for ourselves and offer to each other so that the work, the context in which we carry on here is in this bubble. All right. We are now moving to the first segment. What is anger? Here's where we're going to have you share in the chat. Say yes to the chat if you don't like being around angry people. We're getting some yeses. Say yes in the chat if you don't like feeling angry yourself. Good. Thank you. Finally, say yes in the chat if you don't really know what to do with anger.
Lots of yeses,
Okay, you're in the right place. Thank
especially
you.
to the last question.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
This is what I would like you to do right now. This is the first self-reflective piece. What is your history with anger? So now reflect on how was anger expressed growing up? Remember your family, remember your childhood years. Then consider, did you get the impression that anger was a good emotion? I use the word impression because anger impacts us that way. It hits us. It's not something out there. It kind of involves us rather quickly. Another reflective question. How do you experience when someone's angry at you or when you're angry? So reflecting on these things, that will be the background of what I am going to say next. Reflecting on these experiences, I think you might come around, most of you, to the impression that anger is bad, dangerous, shameful. Anger being bad, just the feeling of it in us or seeing it expressed out there, it doesn't feel good at all, does it? In fact, sometimes it's dangerous. I have had countless clients said to me, "Oh, my father was really angry and would beat us up sometimes, or maybe not us, but our mother." Father is usually the culprit in the family, where it gives the child the impression that it's bad. And having experienced that, it doesn't feel, if you're beaten up, it's definitely dangerous. And sometimes there's such a mixture about our responses to angry people that if we feel it ourselves, we don't want it. I want to make the point that you can reflect on about how much anger, how much energy that anger has. When you see when you see the wars in the world, you can see the expression of anger where someone decided that they were right and they were going to concretely destroy a people because they're right and they're wrong. So this is where we can concretely see how humans turn anger into destruction, aggression. It's huge anger. That's on a global scale. But in an individual scale, we can experience it in just one person being angry. If they're not explosive, which they often are, you can sense the energy of that. And that's the point I want to make. When we were children, we may not have been able to describe what was happening to us, but the impression moved into our bodies. And we may still have that impression of that energy of anger that was so hard to contain, so hard to deal with. Energy has energy. Anger has energy. And that is important to realize because when you see anger differently, you can use that energy on your own behalf. You can use that energy as power. But when you're young, you're unprepared and you just get these impressions and these beliefs that make you feel that anger is to be avoided. So we put please do not disturb somewhere in our hearts. We bury, suppress, or repress. We deny, avoid, dismiss. So say yes in the chat. You know you do any of these things with your anger. Bury it. That means you unconsciously, without even knowing, just bury it beyond your consciousness, or you actively repress it. Then you have some form of denying. Whenever you're angry or someone else is angry, you turn away. You don't want to see it. You don't want to deal with it. You avoid it or you dismiss it. You go on to other things. So say yes in the chat if you find you do any of these things.
There's some yeses in the chat.
Mhm. And even name what it is that you do.
Uh, Tessa says until it finds a way out eventually.
Right.
There's a yes, do not disturb and repress it. Hate angry people and hate being angry.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Let's see what's next on the screen.
Kenneth says seclusion, which is one of my methods.
Yes, that's good to recognize. You know, if you stay away from people emotionally or physically, often you can avoid getting angry because it's usually people who get us angry. Conditions in the world can also get us angry, and we have so many reasons to be angry at the state of affairs in our nation, in our world, on the planet, climate change, all of this. You can get angry at the weather, too hot, too cold, hail, storms, etc., etc. So, in this section too, we're going to see, I'm going to encourage you to see anger as a message. So, these airplanes are supposed to be messages of anger. Let's see what I say next. Okay. I want to impress upon you the possibility that anger is a message of no from the heart. It's the message that no, my needs are not being met. My needs for safety, love, and respect. But I want you to focus on this first thing. Anger is no from the heart. Can you get it? That when you're angry, your heart is saying, no, this is not what I need. No, this person isn't respecting me, isn't liking me, is criticizing me. So, how many of you can begin to wrap yourself around the idea that anger is a no, a message from your heart? Are we finding people wrapping, getting to that point of being able to see that? Yes, more and more? Wonderful.
Yes, there are some yeses. They
Okay.
keep growing.
Wonderful. Because this is the basic emotional reset. So you come into this workshop, masterclass, with some idea of how you um, respond to anger, and briefly having you look at your history and how you respond to anger in the various ways I've described it. You begin to recognizing that looking at anger as a bad, dangerous thing is natural because of our human experience. But if we carry on that way, we turn away from the message from your heart. All emotions are messages from your heart. And anger is one of the most powerful because of the way it affects us. So if we can get to seeing anger as a message or no from the heart, we are changing. We have the possibility of making such a huge change in how we live in the world. Here's a little segment that I need to provide right now, or want to provide. When we were really young, we didn't have the access to our heart in a constructive way. Because our heart hurt, all we wanted to do was protect it. We didn't see it as an ally or something that was a resource for us. So, what did we have left? We had our brain, our intellect, our thinking mind. So, when I work with clients, we're constantly being reminded that the thinking mind, the intellect, has a voice really loud. So even as we speak, I speak now of this attitude change. Your brain is saying, I don't know about this. Your head is skeptical. It's analytical. It's logical. But have you ever noticed that it isn't holistic? It doesn't have a broad point of view. It doesn't have answers that bring peace. Rather, its nature is divisive. The only place that you can find peace is in your heart. So I'm saying these things to say it's not your fault that you listen to your head all the time. It's the way of our culture. Science is respected. It's if you're not logical, if you're not using your brain, oh, all your schooling. What is all your schooling about? It's not about your heart. It's about your brain. It's about all the math, all the science, all the history, all the geography, all these facts. Then you need to stuff in your brain so that you can make it in life. So our culture has no respect for the heart in that way, for the most part. And unless you grew up in a family with special parents who respected the heart and lived from the heart, you are clueless about the predominance of intellect and head in how you live. So I often have to go back practically with every client I work with to choose the part, the trauma parts that chose the head and disregarded the heart. So I just wanted to bring this up as a way of recognizing that even now, your heart can not have the space it needs. And it is your heart that we're talking about for the most part here. And now about your head also. Um, your head is all about right and wrong, about us and them, so that it brings us into fear. Your intellect brings up thoughts that make us feel afraid of others, afraid of change, because the brain cannot provide that kind of security. Only your heart can. So this was a commercial about the need to open your heart. So this is the reset. Whenever you have an action of anger, take a pause. If then, not then, later on and say, oh, okay, I was angry then. Let me take a pause. Let me listen. Let me listen to the message from my heart. Was someone invading my space? Do I feel disrespected, criticized, rejected? What did my heart need instead? So this is a method to change from reacting and responding by listening. This is the kind of teaching that would be great for parents to have when their child is having an emotional reaction. In that space of reaction, you can be with them and say, wow, you're upset, aren't you? You take the reaction and you be with the child until they feel that you're with them. They don't feel alone. And then maybe they can explore. What happened? You might ask, the parent might ask. And the child might say, wow, that person scared me. But the point is, we get to hear the heart's message. So now you have your opportunity. Think of a time you felt angry this week or even today. Now we're taking the time to pause. What was the no your heart was speaking? Trying to deliver that message. And then you can move to what might your heart have needed instead in that moment. So I'm giving you at least a minute to think of a time you felt angry today, sometime this week. And then say, was this a message of no from my heart? Or pretend that it was. What was that no about? What did the heart receive and needed instead of that? So I'll give you at least a minute to do this.
Uh, Faye said she felt pain, she needed calm and not conflict.
Thank you. Yes, please share in the chat any messages you found by focusing on a time you were angry. Say yes in the chat if you were able to focus at least on the task of listening to your heart.
There's some additional um,
Sharing?
sharing in the chat. Jordan said she experienced disapproval, she needed appreciation. I needed gentleness and patience. Had a fear of loss. Dave
Mm,
felt rejected and devalued.
yes,
Needed reassurance. Kenneth
yes.
felt there was misperception. He needed dialogue, not judgment. Hannah says, I needed to stand up for myself and set boundaries and be my own protector.
Perfect. All of you have touched upon the journey of listening more and more to your heart because you will find these needs, and the need for boundary oftentimes comes up when someone is invading your space, shaming you, criticizing you, rejecting you. And you can either say, this isn't helpful, or walk away. Some way of not allowing what was happening to continue. You are caring for yourself.
Tessa experienced injustice and unfairness. She needed to
Yes,
be heard. And Janet agreed with Hannah about boundaries and being her own protector.
beautiful. Thank you. You're doing great work. Uh, we did that. And I don't mean to move so quickly to the next section. I wanted to quote Carl Jung, who says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In this particular exercise, listening to your heart, moving from reaction to be there with your heart, you are shedding light into messages from your heart that you have previously ignored. Things remain in the unconscious when you don't take the time to look. And this exercise helps you look. And by making it conscious and making many of these moments conscious, you will begin to have clarity about what you need. And when you gather more and more of your needs, draw boundaries, you get to speak your truth, at least in that moment. Giving yourself a voice, speaking your truth, is one huge step in a direction of making your truth an important part of your life rather than being pushed aside, rather than um, engaging the child part that wants to remain small, protected by being invisible. You begin to break out of that when you have a voice. So, all these are aspects of claiming your wholeness. And anger is one very powerful way to begin to move your life in a different direction. So, to summarize up to this particular point, we've taken anger, which we couldn't see why we handled the way we did. And believe me, this is all from experience. I suppressed, repressed, denied my anger for most of my life. And until today, I find anger in the little things that come up. These little things still have messages from my hurt child, which is what I'm going to be talking about next, because it makes me realize that I walk around as an adult and I have these hurt parts of me that inform so much of how we live. So that is my transition. All right. But before I do that, I don't know, I don't think I see the more to be explored. We have looked at anger, but your heart also responds with fear. It also responds with sadness. These two carry messages from your heart. So we've only begun the journey to listen to our hearts. So this is section 3. How we can take anger as key to power, healing, clarity, and purpose. And these are the sections. First, we're going to talk about anger as a way of connecting with the inner child, because it's one of the triggers, and fear and sadness are the other triggers. And we also connect with the inner child through beliefs. The second section, we'll be talking about healing the inner child, because what's the point of finding these hurt parts in the ways that we can find them if we have no way of healing? And so the section 2 will be about healing, and not only that, how we can heal through the subconscious, which is very, very powerful. And the third section will talk about the goal of the undefended heart. So the overall picture is that in childhood we were hurt. We wanted to protect our heart from further hurt. So we created beliefs and patterns to wall our heart from further hurt. And as long as that wall remains, we don't have access to our heart, which has wisdom. It's your original essence as spirit, as good, pure, and connected with love. So to get to the place of the undefended heart is all about what I am speaking. And the way that I have found to get there is to work with the inner child. All right. What do I mean about the inner child? The inner child is a trauma part, a part that was created in response to your being hurt badly. So in your early experiences, you felt ignored, unseen, not understood, betrayed, abandoned by your parents, your mother, your father. And in those early experiences, all you knew was the pain of it and the responses you had. No, not this. Or another response is, oh my God, no one here. I'm alone. No one here for me, and I am afraid. And another one, which isn't the easiest to get to, is I am so sad that I don't have what I need. I am so sad that I've forgotten where I come from. That's a deeper exploration. So the gifts of the inner child, from my point of view, begins with the triggers. And then come the beliefs, the impressions you have of self and the world. Impressions such as, I'm not good enough. I made a really bad mistake. I need to be perfect. I'm not lovable. I'm not deserving. I am not worthy. So all that I have in my life, it comes from, it is found in these beliefs, beliefs about the world. The world cannot be trusted. Look at the mess it's in. Other people cannot be trusted because they fail you. Or the world has a scarcity of good things, scarcity of respect, scarcity of love, scarcity of abundance. There are so many beliefs that we have acquired trying to make sense of our experience of being rejected, abandoned, betrayed, etc., the early pains of childhood. That is another way we can connect with the inner child whenever we see this in ourselves. Then come the patterns that the trauma parts created to survive. Now, every one of us, me included, live by the scripts created by these patterns. So whatever you have in your life, they are expressions of patterns that we wrote, trauma parts wrote a long time ago. And the only intention of these patterns is your survival. And guess what? They worked because you're here today. You survived. But you're here today because survival isn't enough. Your heart wants more. Your heart wants peace. Your heart wants fulfillment. Your heart wants um, to be creative. Your heart wants to feel like there's a direction or a purpose. Your heart wants more. But following these patterns to survive, they are restricted. So the adult and whatever desires and longings of the heart they can touch. There's a song or this phrase, is this all there is, that comes to mind that you may kind of, yeah, that's how it feels. Is this all there is to my life? That's how it feels when you are living the script run by these survival parts. So, the point of talking about the gifts of the inner child is trigger beliefs and patterns show you how you've been boxed or caged. And if we can use the triggers, beliefs, and patterns and heal them, we are free from the cage. Now, just at this level alone, please say yes in the chat if any of the triggers, any of the beliefs, or any patterns that you now detect, you can see that it's just a matter of survival and that you want to be free from the constraints of these. I hope my question was intelligent. Do we have any yeses?
We have yeses from Kenneth, Jordan, Chelsea, Aaliyah. I hope I'm saying that right. Vicky,
Good, good. Thank you so much. Okay,
more
this is
yeses are appearing.
awesome. Now, as I said before, anger is just one call from the inner child. You have two choices. You can ignore anger. Okay, there's a mistake I didn't catch. Anger and other trigger so that the inner child's reaction, beliefs, and patterns run your adult script. Now that I've pointed this out to you, you have a choice. Are you willing to look to see what healing can be for you so that you're uncaged and are free to create the life that you want beyond survival? The choice is yours to make. And if you stick with me further, you'll understand more of what the healing involves and how you can move through healing to empower yourself. So, tying the whole presentation together, I started with anger because it is a strong call from the inner child. Okay, here's a self-reflective piece I'll give you a minute on. Think of a recent time you were angry, afraid, or sad. Who or what triggered you? Can you see an old belief about yourself that lives under that feeling? Let's move to it being afraid or deeply sad. What triggered you? Who triggered you? What belief is connected to that feeling? So you are now making the unconscious conscious. so that by making it conscious, you have the choice to move in another direction. So I'll give you a minute on this exercise. Doug, are you checking the waiting room?
Yeah, I'm not seeing anyone right at the current time. Do you see someone?
Yes, I see Rachel Johnson.
Okay, she's not on my list, but you could, I think it might be safe to admit her.
Yes, let's, because we could always do something about that. I'll admit her. So, were you able to think of a moment you were afraid or sad and recreate what triggered that? Can you find a belief about that? I will give you an example. Um, Whenever I'm these days, when I move into self-doubt or just kind of a dark space and I sit with it, the belief that comes up for me is I am alone. I have to do my life all by myself. And connected to that is, can I really do it all myself? Doubt, self-confidence. Am I good enough? So all of this connected to something that triggered my fear. So did say yes in the chat if you were able to use this to find a belief under that feeling.
Leah says that she notes her mom and she says that it triggers the feeling I'm not good enough.
Uh-huh.
Kenneth says yes, but nothing specific. Um, Faye says conflict about being shouted at puts her in a black box and she can't work out why she can't stand shouting so much. It scares her and she spins internally.
All right. Wonderful things to observe about your reactions. That
Hannah says, I
yeah.
only ever show anger towards myself. And I
Ah,
believe that stems from feelings I was the cause of abuse as a child
yes.
to not being able to accept my parents weren't safe. It felt safer to blame myself, and I was too young to accept the reality of the abuse.
May I respond to that? That makes me so sad when the situation you were in childhood left you feeling you were to blame. One of the first things I encourage my clients to do when we meet with the inner child is to say, you know what happened? It wasn't your fault. That's one of the first lies, the first impressions that the trauma parts have. It's my fault. And they can use that to punish themselves and create situations in their lives where they get punished because that belief is creating that. I hope that makes sense. Anything else, Doug?
Yes, there's a number of other comments. Um, Tessa says her negative emotions were considered inconvenient.
Yes.
She wonders why she couldn't just think her way out of it and stick with the status quo. Janet says there was triggers by bully behavior. Jordan says her dad's criticism makes her feel like everything is her fault, so she has trouble taking constructive feedback. Chelsea says not hearing back from someone I was dating brought a fear of rejection and massive discomfort. Old belief about not being good enough.
Yes, yes.
Tessa says, like Anne, I felt alone in my childhood. I felt that I had to do it all myself because expressing anger, upset to others was seen as inconvenient and a burden to others. Kenneth says, I allowed my father's silence as punishment to where I react instead of responding.
Parents really serve as models, good or bad, for sure. Thank you for participating in the way that you have. I'm looking at the time and seeing I really need to move on. Okay, so obviously, with this exercise, you already can see the richness, and there's more because anger is just the beginning. And we looked a little at fear, and we can look more at sadness. And any current event that we react to, we can take and listen and see what comes from our inner child and get closer to the beliefs, the reactions, the modeling, and all of that to shed more and more light on our history, our experiences, so they don't remain in darkness and can inform how we can begin to move into our truth. This is section 2, healing the inner child through patterns and the subconscious. So, when you were young, you found ways to survive. The pain of not being seen, loved, or being safe. Your body and mind created survival patterns to protect your heart. These parts also made you feel the sense of the world as unpredictable or unsafe because they were built for survival, not thriving. Now I am going through 10 patterns that I want you to start counting to see whether you have this pattern. People pleaser, always saying yes, avoiding conflict, seeking approval. For example, that you take on extra work, agree to things you don't want to do, silence your own need. Limitation, your boundaries are blurry or missing. Resentment builds, you feel exhausted and seen. Second, the overachiever proves worth through constant doing and success, feels never enough. You have a wall of certificates, but still don't feel good enough inside. You sacrifice joy and rest for more doing. Burnout and emptiness follow. The perfectionist believes mistakes mean rejection or failure, trying to control every detail. For example, spending hours rewriting an email or replaying conversations in your head. What happens? Creativity dies. Nothing ever feels done. Fear of criticism steals your peace. The lone wolf does everything alone, doesn't trust anyone to help, feels safer relying only on self. For example, you never ask for help, even when you're overwhelmed. But the isolation feeds exhaustion. Collaboration and connection feel threatening. I know this one real well. I know the perfectionist real well. The chameleon becomes who others want them to be, loses touch with the authentic self. For example, you change how you speak, dress, and act depending on who's in the room. The limitation, deep down, you feel invisible. The real you is buried under the mask. Fifth, the peacekeeper. You avoid conflict so you can feel secure. You swallow anger and hard truth. For example, you say, it's fine when it's not. Then you feel resentful and powerless. So on the unspoken truth festers, boundaries disappear, the heart's no goes unheard. I avoid conflict a lot. I swallow my anger and my truths too. 7, the fixer feels responsible for everyone else's problems, needs to make things better to feel valuable. So you jump in to rescue others even when they don't ask. The limitation, your own needs are unseen, unmet, and people can get a sense of a fixer and they come in to drain your energy. The escapist numbs or avoids feelings through distraction, doesn't sit with distraction. So you scroll endlessly on social media or news, you overeat, you binge TV, or you keep yourself busy so you can't feel. The limitations, of course, is the old wounds stay hidden and still run the show. Healing can't happen in avoidance. The critic turns anger inward as self-blame. Oh, this sounds familiar, and harsh judgment. You shame yourself for mistakes. You replay regrets, and you can't forgive yourself. The limitation is no self-compassion. You're trapped in guilt and smallness. Number 10, you shut down all feelings to stay strong. Feeling safe only comes when you numb yourself. So you say, I don't feel angry, while your body is tense and energy is stuck. You know, this can lead to all kinds of physical symptoms where your body expresses what happens when you shut down feelings. You develop autoimmune diseases, you develop irritable bowel, all kinds of symptoms. So the limitation is life feels flat and heavy, and the emotional energy is stuck and cannot heal.
Can I interrupt a second?
Please.
Chelsea wants to know what 5 and 6 were. I suspect she missed it.
Okay, let me go back. The chameleon and the peacekeeper. Thank you for asking for what you need. Easy to accommodate. You know, reading these and reading them out to you, it just points out to me, I still have left some of these patterns in me. Darn. All right. So write in the chat, how many patterns do you think you have? Put a number. So are we getting numbers of the patterns that people are admitting to?
I wrote down too numerous to count. Uh, Faye said 9, Maya 3 to 4. Um, uh, Tessa said, I feel like I've had all of these to some degree at some point in my life. Chelsea said 6. I, uh, Aaliyah said, I hate to say it, but I still found 1 to 10 relevant to me. Jordan, at least 5, like there's something in each I can relate to. Vicky says all of them have appeared somewhat in my life. Ditto. Um,
Thank you for admitting to yourself and recognizing that once articulated, you can see the patterns.
yes, and Danny said currently six, so he's mastered overcoming some, I assume. And Hannah said 10. Oops. Uh, and I'm trying to. Amma Jane said, mm, I
Oh,
can't.
thank you, Doug. I need to move on because
Yes,
my time
yes,
is limited.
right. I got it. That's your need.
So these patterns once protected you, but today they cost you energy, joy, creativity, connection to intuition and spirit. When these parts lead, they block your original essence, your natural state of wholeness, inspiration, deep inner peace. So the walls you built for protection now keep you from your own heart. That's the message of this section. So we need to find ways to heal the inner child. You know, I can spend another 90 minutes talking about healing the inner child. There are many ways. There are many ways if you go on the internet and type in healing the inner child or on YouTube and so forth. There are hundreds of experts out there with journals, meditations, and everything else on how to heal the inner child. And between all those ways, some people find their way to heal enough of their inner child because it's your time and you find a way. But for me, the only way to truly heal the inner child is working with the subconscious. This picture illustrates the amount of material that is in the subconscious mind and what's in the conscious mind. 5% of what you are aware of right now, that's coming from the conscious mind. And 95% of what influences you right now is in the subconscious. And this is good for many things. Keeping your heart beating, keeping your keeping your breathing unless you stop it and then somehow it kicks in and you breathe again. There are so many good things that is in the subconscious mind. However, in the subconscious mind are all the traumas, all the beliefs that limit you, all the patterns, all the habits that keep you distracted, keep you busy, all of that, all in the subconscious mind. And from my point of view, you need to engage the subconscious mind if you're going to heal the inner child. I have a quick testimonial here with someone who worked with me with the subconscious mind. She found it life changing. She found that the space was so safe. She could just say everything. She had light bulb moments that shifted her deeply. After so much trauma and loss and listening to her history, I was just blown away. And working with her and her subconscious mind, we found enough of the hidden parts that she could heal them to release that she carried for 40 years and more. So, this is a testimonial about my work with the subconscious to begin to create quite a different life. So regarding these patterns, those are only the ones that I articulated, but there are so many more patterns that you don't realize. are there. And it takes working together in a group or with a mentor like me to uncover more patterns that come from beliefs, more beliefs to look at, and more instances of feeling irritated instead of anger, worry instead of fear, subtle expressions of the triggers, all that can begin to come into awareness and to work with the subconscious to heal the parts that we find. So, what are we doing all of this for? It's to get to the undefended heart. Remember, the heart that is broken, that doesn't trust, that we need to dissolve that wall. So, just a few quotes. The goal is not to harden our hearts, but to keep them open, undefended, and alive to love, even in the face of pain. An undefended heart is not weak, it is strong to feel the full truth of what is here. When you drop your armor, the wall, your true heart can breathe. So, just some inspiration about what the undefended heart is about. Here is an illustration of someone who has uncovered her undefended heart. With Anne's guidance, I coaxed my inner child out of hiding, helping her feel safe, release fear and defenses. Now I know I deserve to take up space and hold space, which has helped me better understand boundaries. Today, and this is the part I really love, I feel more like the tall redwood tree I sit under with a stronger connection to the God of my heart, grounding me and letting my soul speak. So, this is some of the example of standing in your truth, not lashing out, saying no with love, getting to forgiving those who hurt you, not to excuse them, but to free your own heart. Watching your ego's old trick and using compassion instead. We explore all these things as we work together. When this is a too long testimonial from this person, and I'm going to give you the short version. When I met Anne, I was drowning. A breakup, a terrible boss, an identity crisis, and layers of old pain I didn't even know I carried. I came for a few superconscious sessions, hoping to survive. What I got was so much more: real peace, clarity, and self-love. Anne then invited me to her inner child course. I was skeptical. My parents were good parents, but I soon saw that it wasn't about blaming them. It was about healing the hidden wounds we all carry. Her course felt safe and supported. I found community, connection, and freedom to use my own voice. For the first time, I understood my inner critic and began to hear my heart. Now my life has a quiet magic I couldn't see before. I face life challenges with more ease. I feel whole. If you're struggling or an overachiever, which she was, who can't shake that restless feeling, take this course. It will bring you home to your truest self. So, this is all about my showing you bits of the path that I have taken, keys that I have used to help clients to wholeness and healing. So we are Ooh, at the end of our call. So what I want to do is I want you to pause and breathe. I won't take more than a minute more of your time. Take this time to connect with your heart again, the place that you have defended so long, and yet has always calling you home. You have seen today how anger, so often feared or buried, can have a message, a doorway back to your inner child, a signal that your heart has needs worth listening to. You've glimpsed how your old wounds and patterns have shaped your life and how healing them through your subconscious opens you to your true self, spirit, essence, connection with love. Remember, this is not the end of the journey, but just the beginning of living with your heart undefended, rooted in truth, guided by your inner wisdom, aligned with your soul purpose. Keep watching for these messages. Let your heart speak. Trust it more than the noise of your mind. And you don't have to do this alone because I'm inviting you to book a breakthrough clarity call where we will look at your unique stories, patterns, and the roadmap to your freedom. So, this is how you can book a meeting with me, this clarity call. I couldn't get Calendly to change new meeting into a breakthrough clarity call, where we'll have 45 minutes to become acquainted with your issues and how what you've learned today can be used to map out what you might do to move to healing, to move to own your power and your wholeness. So that's it. I want to embrace you in my heart, full of gratitude for sticking with me for this whole time. And what I'm going to do is stop the share, end the recording.
I put the link